What is your greatest FU moment? Back when I was 14 years old, I started working at the only store in my town that would hire kids my age. It was a pretty large mom and pop store that sold all sorts of goods, mostly clothing, sporting and hunting equipment, sneakers and other stuff that you might find in a sports authority. Well, one of the reasons that the owner used to like hiring kids that young was because he could take advantage of them and pay them piss poor compensation. I think my wages were about $5.50 per hour IRC. I worked there about 3 months in awful conditions. Most of the back rooms were fire hazards, and when cleaning out one of the rooms, a coworker of mine literally found a bag filled with piss. The store was notorious for its shitty conditions, but I had literally nowhere else to work. The final straw for me came when I was asked to prep about 500 pairs of shoes for a sidewalk sale. In order to keep the shoes together, they had to be zip tied to their mates, so customers didn't mix them up. I spent about 5 hours with a coworker tying these shoes together. It turns out the instructions that my coworker communicated to me were faulty, and they had to be completely redone after I left work that day. When I received my paycheck for that week, I noted that 5 hours had been deducted from my work time. I approached my boss about the discrepancy, and he opened the computer logs to show me my time. He must have thought I was naive because I looked at the logs and I was punched in for literally 1 second that day. It would have been impossible for me to punch in my ID to log in and then punch it in a second time to log out in the matter of 1 second. I knew he had altered my time. I approached him in his office about this and asked if he had docked the hours. Because of the mix-up, he didn't acknowledge docking pay, but he instead asked, "Do you think you deserve to be paid for those hours?" In the most elegant way I've ever said fuck you. At 14 years old, I replied, "It doesn't matter what I think. The law says you have to pay me for my time." I don't think he expected me to understand the legality of the issue. I demanded he write me a check right there, and I quit shortly after I cashed the check. When he asked why I was quitting, I told him that the job wasn't quite what I expected. He prompted, "What did you expect from this job?" In one final fuck you, I replied I expected to be paid for the time I worked. I don't recall what he said after that, but I walked away with my dignity and pride intact.